Hey Dance Fam, thank you for tuning into today's episode. It just feels really good to be in your ears. And I always just imagine you listening to this in the car, like driving, maybe doing school drop off or going to work, or maybe even just going for a walk early in the morning or after a long day of teaching. And it's only because that's exactly what I do. You know, I have the podcast that I religiously listen to each week, and I know the day they drop and I know the time they drop, and I look forward to listening to them because it's just part of my weekly ritual, right? But honestly, like the things that I get from these podcasts, so some of them I listen to because I love the tone of their voice and it's calming. A lot are just educational, and the gold that they drop and that they share each week is so impactful for me. And I am always just hoping that you get the same from this podcast, because that is my number one intention every time I'm recording an episode. And I just always feel like these episodes open up the opportunity to have those, those conversations that we sometimes want or need but can't always have. And that's just because of where we sit in the business. Maybe we don't have someone around us who understands, or maybe you don't have someone around who could take on the honesty about what you want to talk about, bouncing ideas, or you've had a thought and you're not sure whether it's going to work out. Or a lot of times, I know we just need to vent, right? And I just look at these episodes as those quiet conversations and giving you the opportunity to hear what it's like from the other side, me sharing experiences with studio owners that I'm currently working with, to just make you feel like you're not alone. And look, it's no secret that this month I am welcoming just several new studio owners into the mastermind. And we have these conversations daily, right? So if this is something that you really are feeling like is missing for you right now, then let's just have a chat about that. But anyway, let's move into today's episode. Now, this one is, if your enrollments are lower than you'd like, then here's what I'd be doing right now. Over the past couple of episodes, I've been touching on the enrollments are being low. I've put together that document with some strategies you can implement, because it's being spoken about still. It is still on people's minds. It is still affecting people. And so if I'm seeing it, reading it, hearing it, then I'm just going to keep talking about it, because it's obviously happening, and it's quite likely happening for you as well. So right now it's March, so it's the time to get on top of it. We don't want to be stuck worrying about enrollments, because we've got bigger and better things to do. So I'm going to just step you through exactly what I would be doing if that's how I was feeling right now. All right, strap in. So the first thing I would be doing is just getting really clear and looking into where the real gap is. Before I touch the marketing, before I'm changing anything, before I'm reacting, I would just have a look at where the gap is, and asking myself things like, how many students are we down? Like, what does that actually represent in dollars? Like, how much income are we losing? Because sometimes you can have less students but be earning more. Like, if you've timetabled well and you've re-enrolled well, you could have less students but still be earning more money. But you're stuck on a number of students versus income. So that is something to look at. I would be looking if this is like a certain age group or a certain class, or like as a whole, is there something that is standing out? Is it a particular teacher maybe that numbers are dropping, or people haven't come back, or trials aren't converting? And is it new people not converting, or is it people who have re-enrolled, like current families who are not coming back? All these questions are going to help start the plan of how you can move forward, because this clarity is then giving you the clues to what you need to implement or what you need to tweak or change. And so when you know where those gaps are, that's when you can start to really plan. Now, the next thing I would do is to have a look at my conversions and my retention. So before trying to get more leads, reaching out to more, doing more Facebook ads, that sort of thing, I want you to think about having a look at why anyone who has inquired or anyone who is enrolled have then chosen to not continue or to ghost you and leave? Like, why is it that they're not staying? And so at this point, I'm now looking at who is it that didn't return, who usually does, or who I would have expected to. And then I would look at our week 1 and our week 2 of, did we do proper check-ins? Were we communicating well? Did we have our onboarding structured and confident? Did any classes feel unsettled? Were any teachers feeling a bit wobbly? These are the things that I would be looking at before even trying to get more people in, because often the case is we're getting them, but something's happening in between that point of them coming to the studio and keeping them there. So we need to identify what that is and get that fixed. Otherwise, you're just going to continually spend money and time to bring new people in. But if we haven't fixed the bit that is the reason that they're leaving and not staying or not converting, then you may as well just, I don't know, not quit, but you know what I mean. Like, we just have to fix that bit before we keep getting more people in. All right. The next thing, and I have actually spoken about this in either last week or the week before's episode, and it's just talking about the psychology of how people are thinking. And I'm sort of working with studio owners and activating this midterm momentum, which we have the big build-up in January for sure, but there's that midterm reach out that we now need to do because we're reaching a different type of parent. Now, I've learnt that not everyone is like me, which, shock horror, because I'm the person who likes to have it all sorted and in the diary ASAP, especially when my kids were young, because I'm just too busy with other stuff. So it needs to be sorted, or I forget. I'll be honest, I just forget to do things because other things come up. That's me. But others aren't. And I'm learning this more and more now. The more than ever, I'm seeing this because some families are just choosing to wait to let the school routine settle. Now, my sister-in-law is a kindergarten teacher, and she says they are told to tell parents, drop all extra activities. They just need to focus on school. They're going to be tired. They're going to be learning a whole lot of new stuff, and they want that distraction and the other things to be taken away from them. And I sort of understand why they're saying that. But as you and I know, there are definite benefits for them to continue with things like dance outside of school. And we know the benefits of that. Of course, we have to be messaging that to our families. But for some reason, not for some reason, parents are choosing to let those routines settle. There's obviously logistics with siblings and their activities. They're waiting to see how tired their child is. And in a lot of ways, I think a parent is also wanting to settle into the routine of the year before committing to extra stuff as well. But then they do get to a point when it is, okay, we're ready to go. And this is where I want you to jump in to sort of allow that second chance within that first term. Your messaging needs to change a little bit, okay? We don't want that urgency of, join before we start. Classes are starting in 1 week. You got 1 week left to enroll. We're dropping that. There's no pressure. This is now that school routines have settled, if you're looking for something structured or confidence building, or you want your child to build a new circle of friends, here's how we're going to support those who are joining midterm. And if you have inquiries coming in from midterm, you want to start nurturing them. You want to start having some ideas about what it is that could attract them, nurture them, to get them, whether they're starting at the end of term 1 or the beginning of term 2, now is the time. And so for me, I'd be putting in place, I'd even probably create like a structured short-term pass, like some sort of offer that can get them in just for the last part of the term, give it the classes a trial, and then they can enroll, start term 2. I get really clear with my communication and the integration of what it looks like for them to start in, halfway through a term or in term 2 of a year. I would have a really strong follow-up and be still calm and have a confident tone, just not come across desperate. If I don't want to offend anyone, but just that real, we'd love for you to join, but we understand, because that's the type of personality that you're dealing with these people who have chosen this path. It's just different timing, it's different psychology, and it's a different message. All right, so then moving on to the next thing that I would do is I would then look at my team and I would look at the energy that they're bringing. Parents really feel and embrace the culture of your studio. And if your team is feeling unsettled, if they're feeling reactive, if they're unprepared, it's really evident and it shows. And if enrollments or attention were lower, then I would be looking at things like clarifying the standards, making sure my teachers were on board, making sure that they knew exactly what I expected from them, making sure my communication was clear with my team, but really embracing that feeling of unity and steadiness. So me being the leader, it's up to me to make sure my team feels supported as well. Ultimately, it falls back on us, and so it's up to us to readjust when it comes to the team. But I would definitely be looking there because issues may need to be addressed and we want to address them sooner rather than later. Okay, number 5 is I would set a 30-day focus. So instead of trying to focus on fixing a whole year, I would just close the gap that I just identified. So if you've moved through all those things that I just spoke about, you've identified maybe one or maybe even 2 or 3 areas, which is so fine. This is how business grows. Once you've identified, you want to focus on one thing at a time. So one number, one time frame, one clear strategy. And when you create sort of a focused 30-day plan around that, then your execution to fix that improves. We essentially want to go deeper into one thing instead of wider and trying to surface level fix many things at one time. Like, it just makes sense, right? Yes. What I wouldn't do is change too much too soon. Now, I don't know about you, but most people I come across, they don't really like change. And that would be the same for any families in your studio, any new ones coming in, people who've probably been around for a while. They probably trust you by now anyway, so it wouldn't matter as much. But if you're doing too many big changes at one time, I just don't think it brings confidence to the people coming to your studio. The next thing I would do is I would stop blaming external factors. So blaming the economy, blaming parents, blaming schools, blaming whatever it is. I just stop blaming. I actually would just change my focus to work out what it is I can fix to improve. And then the next thing I would not do is look at what someone else is doing and try and replicate that, thinking that this is going to fix all the problems, because it generally doesn't. All right. Now, enrollment numbers are obviously a big part of our business. But if the only thing you think that will work to get your numbers back up is marketing, then that's a sign that your foundations need strengthening. Okay, there's a framework to building a studio that scales sustainably. And majority of studio owners that I work with, that's their ultimate goal, right? They want to run a business, they want to run their business where they can give what they want, they want to work the hours that they want it to grow and earn the money, but without it coming at the cost of their soul, right? And family. So the things this framework is built up of foundations, financial clarity, team structure, retention systems, communication pathways, and leadership. Marketing just plugs into that framework. So it's super, super important. I think it's absolutely essential to be marketing, but it's just one part that makes it up. So it doesn't replace it. And that's why cookie cutter advice and that general information that's being stuffed down our throats can sometimes fall short, because your studio has nuance. Your teachers, your community, your families, your positioning, your capacity, the principles of growth, so we can all jump on the internet and have a look at the principles of growth. They're all consistent. Absolutely. It's the execution of little things that we need to do that need to be tailored or bespoke to you and your situation. And that right there, exactly what I just said then, is why I started the mastermind. And it's because I now have the ability to give and share my 30 years of living, breathing, the blood, the sweat, the tears of being in the industry. To completely understand those intricate details that make a studio work, unless you've been there and you've done it, you don't understand. You don't get the small, you don't know the small nuances that work for you specifically and highlight your point of difference, because that's what we need to be focusing on. Now, I love this space. I love the women in it. I love what happens inside it. There's no clicks. There's no like loud, bustly hustle, and there's no games. I haven't got time for games. The girls inside this in the mastermind, that we just don't. We just get in and we work hard. We share and we support. But just working together to make your studio stand out. We're clarifying, we're designing, we're structuring, and we're scaling, and we're doing it properly. And so if you are ready for that level of partnership, then now's the time to reach out, because when the foundations are built correctly, your enrollment dips will stop feeling like emergencies, and they just become the next mini thing to work on, adjust, and keep moving forward. So if it's feeling like the right time, please reach out. I'm going to leave the links below. Otherwise, go back through this episode, take note of all those small things that you should take notice of if your enrollment numbers are feeling down, and start implementing. It's all going to come together from you. All right, everyone, have a really great week.